Young, and the restless spoilers. The heavy oak doors of Victor Newman's executive suite at Newman Enterprises didn't just open, they were thrust inward with a violence that startled the silence of the room. Diane Jenkins stood in the threshold, her chest heaving not from exertion, but from the sheer, suffocating weight of the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She didn't look like a woman on the verge of a breakdown, though the last 48 hours had flayed her nerves raw. She looked like a weapon. Victor Newman sat behind his desk, the sprawling skyline of Genoa City framed by the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look up immediately from the dossier he was reviewing. He simply paused, his hand hovering over a gold fountain pen, before slowly raising his eyes. The look he gave her was one of mild, almost bored irritation, the look a lion might give a gnat. "I told my assistant I was not to be disturbed," Victor said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the mahogany desk. "But I suppose breaking and entering is a habit you never quite shook." "Diane, cut the act, Victor," Diane said, her voice steady, cutting through the air like a serrated blade. She stepped into the room and kicked the door shut behind her with a definitive thud. "I'm not here to play games, and I'm certainly not here to beg." Victor leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers. A faint, cruel smile played on his lips. "Then why are you here? If you are looking for your husband, I believe the police are the ones you should be harassing. I have a company to run." "You have Jack," she stated, walking further into the room until she stood directly across from him. The desk was a fortress between them, but she leaned over it, planting her palms on the polished wood. "I know it, you know it. And we both know that no police force in this city is going to find him unless you want them to. You've escalated this feud into something primal, Victor. You've taken him." Victor's expression remained impassive, a mask of granite. "You give me too much credit, or perhaps too little. If Jack has gone missing, it is likely due to his own incompetence or the endless string of enemies he cultivates. Why would I bother kidnapping a man who is already destroying himself?" "Because you want to win," Diane hissed. "Because stripping him of his dignity wasn't enough. Taking Chancellor wasn't enough. You want him erased. But I'm not here to scream at you about morality. I know that's a language you don't speak." She straightened up, smoothing the lapels of her blazer. The desperation that had been clawing at her throat was shoved down, replaced by a cold, calculating resolve. She had spent the last night weeping into Jack's pillow, terrified she would never see him again. But tears had no currency in this room. Only power did. "I'm here to make a deal," Diane said. Victor's eyebrows rose a fraction of an inch. "A deal? You have nothing I want, Diane. You are a ghost from a past I have long since buried." "I have Jabot," she said. The silence that followed was absolute. The ambient hum of the city outside seemed to vanish. Victor's eyes, dark and unreadable, locked onto hers with a sudden, predatory focus. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Diane said, her voice gaining strength. "Jack is the heart of Jabot, but right now, the company is vulnerable. Kyle is panic-stricken, Billy is distracted with his own wars. And the board is jittery. If Jack doesn't return, the stock plummets, the legacy crumbles. But if he does return, and if I facilitate it, I can offer you something you've chased for decades." She reached into her bag and pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the desk. On the screen was a complex restructuring proposal, a labyrinth of shell companies and voting trusts. "A controlling interest in Jabot's international division," Diane said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "Not a hostile takeover, a legal, binding transfer of operational control to Newman Enterprises. You wouldn't own the name, but you'd own the profits, the distribution channels, the patents in Europe and Asia. You would effectively hollow out the Abbott legacy from the inside, and you would do it with the family's signature on the dotted line." Victor picked up the tablet, his eyes scanning the digital document. For the first time, the mask slipped. Genuine surprise registered on his face. He looked from the screen to Diane, reassessing her. He wasn't looking at the frantic wife anymore. He was looking at a fellow shark. "You would sell out your husband's company?" Victor asked, his voice quiet, dangerous. "The company his father built, the company he worships." "I would burn that building to the ground if it meant getting him back alive," Diane said, her voice trembling with a ferocious intensity. "I don't care about the legacy, Victor. I don't care about the cosmetics or the boardroom chairs. I care about Jack. He is my husband. He is the father of my son. And I will not let you kill him." Victor set the tablet down. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city he treated as his personal chessboard. "This is unexpected. You are offering me the crown jewel of the Abbott family, the ultimate victory." Smiling Jack, reduced to a figurehead in his own company, "while I pull the strings." "It's what you've always wanted," Diane pressed, moving around the desk to stand near him, though she kept a safe distance. "Total dominance. You win. The war ends. You get the spoils." "And the price?" Victor asked, not turning around. "Besides the obvious return of Jack." "Total cessation of hostilities," Diane said. "Forever." Victor turned slowly. "Forever is a long time, Diane." "I mean it," she said. "If you agree to this, the feud ends today. No more sabotage, no more planting evidence, no more using our children as pawns. You release Jack, and harmed immediately. You sign a non-aggression pact that carries penalties so severe it would bankrupt even you to break them. You take your win, you take the money, and you leave the Abbott family alone, permanently." Victor chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "You are asking me to change my nature. The animosity between Jack and myself is fundamental. It is the engine that has driven this city for 40 years. And look where it's gotten us," Diane shouted, her composure cracking for a split second. "Jack is missing. Your family is tearing itself apart trying to defend you. How many more years? Victor, how many more bodies? You are an old man. Do you want your tombstone to say you died fighting a war you could have won with a signature?" She took a breath, stepping closer. "This is a way out. A way to claim victory without bloodshed. You get to be the magnanimous victor who saved Jack Abbott because that's how we'll spin it. We'll say you used your resources to find him. You get the glory. You get the company. You get to look down on him for the rest of your life knowing you own a piece of his soul. Isn't that better than a shallow grave?" Victor stared at her, his mind working furiously behind those dark eyes. He had expected her to come in screaming, threatening to go to the press or the police. He had prepared for hysteria. He had not prepared for this cold-blooded pragmatism. It was a move he respected. It was a move he would have made. He walked back to his desk and sat down, picking up the tablet again. He scrolled through the proposal, noting the details. It was thorough. She had clearly had legal help, or perhaps she was just that desperate and that brilliant. The sheer audacity of it was intoxicating. To own a piece of Jabbit. To have the Abbotts working for him in essence. It was the ultimate humiliation for Jack. But the condition, to end the feud, to let go of the hate that had sustained him through so many dark winters, could he do it? Could he simply stop? Jack would never agree to this, Victor said softly. He would rather die than see Newman Enterprises controlling Jabbit assets. "Jack doesn't get a vote right now," Diane said, her voice hard. "He's not here. I am. I have power of attorney while he's incapacitated or missing. I triggered the clause this morning. I can sign this deal. Victor, and I will, but only if I get proof of life, right now." Victor looked at her for a long moment. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. He saw the fire in her eyes, a reflection of the same fierce protectiveness he felt for Nikki, for his own children. In a strange, twisted way, he admired her. She was willing to sacrifice the thing Jack loved most to save the man himself. "You are a dangerous woman, Diane," Victor said, a note of begrudging respect in his tone. "I have always said it." "Is that a yes?" she demanded. Victor tapped his finger on the desk. "The benefits are substantial. The integration of Jabbitt's Asian markets into Newman's existing infrastructure would create a monopoly that no regulator could touch if we structure it correctly. It is a brilliant maneuver." "I don't care about the monopoly," Diane snapped. "I want my husband. And if I tell you I don't have him, then I walk out of here," Diane said, bluffing with every ounce of strength she had left. "And I go to the press. I tell them Victor Newman is too weak to finish the job. I tell them you're slipping. And then I spend every last dime of the Abbott fortune destroying you. I won't try to build Jabbit up. I use it as a battering ram to tear you down, mutually assured destruction. Is that what you want?" Victor's eyes narrowed. He didn't like threats, but he liked bad business even less. The offer on the table was tangible, the threat was real, and the feud, perhaps it was time. He was tired. The situation with his own children, with the AI debacle, with the constant infighting, it was exhausting. A decisive victory, a clean win, might be exactly what he needed to solidify his legacy. He reached for the intercom button on his desk. Diane held her breath, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Bring me the file on the warehouse property," Victor said into the speaker, "and get my legal team on the line. Tell them to prepare for a merger acquisition." He released the button and looked at Diane. "You are playing a very high-stakes game. If Jack finds out you sold his birthright to save his skin, he may never forgive you. You are saving his life only to destroy his marriage." "I can live with his anger," Diane said, her voice breaking slightly. "I can't live with his death. I'll take that risk." "Very well," Victor said. He opened a drawer and pulled out a burner phone, an archaic piece of technology for a man of his stature, but necessary for his darker dealings. He dialed a number, his eyes never leaving Diane's face. "It's me," Victor said into the phone. "The situation has changed. Prepare the package for transport. We are moving him to a secure drop-off point. No complications. Just do it." He hung up and set the phone down. "He is alive. He is relatively unharmed. He has been kept in a secure location, isolated, but safe." Diane let out a sob she had been holding back for days, her knees buckling slightly. She caught herself against the chair. "Thank God." "Do not thank God," Victor said sharply. "Thank your own ruthlessness. You have bought his life, Diane, but the cost is high." "The contract," Diane said, wiping her eyes and straightening up. "I want it drawn up now. The transfer of the division for his release. And the clause, the non-aggression clause. It has to be ironclad." "My lawyers will draft it," Victor said. "But know this. Once this is signed, there is no going back. Jabbit will never be fully his again. He will be a king in a castle that I own the foundations of." "He'll be alive," Diane repeated. "That's all that matters." Victor stood up and walked around the desk. He stopped in front of her, towering over her. "You have surprised me. I did not think you had the stomach for this." "I love him," Diane said simply. "That's something you might understand, in your own twisted way. You'd burn the world for Nikki. I'm burning Jabbit for Jack." Victor nodded slowly. "Perhaps we are not so different after all." He extended his hand. It was a surreal gesture, a handshake offered by the devil himself. Diane looked at his hand, the hand that had caused so much pain, so much chaos. Then she looked at the phone where he had ordered Jack's release. She reached out and took his hand. His grip was firm, cold, and unyielding. "We have a deal," Diane said. "A deal," Victor agreed. "And Diane." "What?" "When he returns," Victor said, a glimmer of dark amusement in his eyes, "tell him I said. It was a pleasure doing business." Diane pulled her hand away, her skin crawling. "Just get him home, Victor." As she turned to leave, the weight of what she had done crashed down on her. She had saved Jack, yes, but she had also handed his greatest enemy the keys to his kingdom. She had ended the war by surrendering the one thing Jack had fought his entire life to protect. She walked out of the office, her heels clicking rhythmically on the marble floor. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The future of the Abbott-Newman dynamic had shifted on its axis. The balance of power was broken, and when Jack woke up, when he realized the price of his freedom, the real storm would begin. Inside the office, Victor walked back to the window. He looked out at the city, the lights beginning to twinkle in the twilight. He felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The feud was over. He had won, and he hadn't even had to pull the trigger. He picked up the fountain pen and began to make notes on the tablet, outlining the integration of Jabbit's assets. The game was over, but the business never stopped. There in the executive suite of Newman Enterprises was rarefied, recycled, and freezing cold, a sharp contrast to the inferno burning in Jack Abbott's chest. He stood outside the heavy oak doors, his hand trembling not from fear, but from exhaustion so profound it felt like his marrow had turned to lead. For weeks, he had watched Jabbit bleed out. The AI attack Victor Newman had orchestrated wasn't just business, it was an erasure. Every legacy protocol his father John had built was being rewritten by a ghost in the machine, dismantling the Abbott Empire line by code line. Jack pushed the door open. He didn't wait for the assistant. He didn't knock. Victor Newman sat behind his desk, a monolith in a three-piece suit, backlit by the sprawling Genoa city skyline. He didn't look up immediately, his attention fixed on a tablet screen that likely displayed the plummeting stock value of Abbott Cosmetics. The silence stretched, tight as a piano wire, until Victor finally deigned to acknowledge his intruder. "Jack," Victor said, his voice a low rumble, devoid of surprise. He set the tablet down with deliberate slowness. "To what do I owe the pleasure of this intrusion? I assumed you would be busy salvaging what little is left of your company." "You know exactly why I'm here, Victor," Jack said. His voice was raspy, stripped of its usual boardroom polish. He walked further into the room, stopping only when he reached the edge of the Persian rug that separated them. "End it, now." Victor leaned back, steepling his fingers. A faint, cruel smile played on his lips. "And what, exactly? The free market at work? Or perhaps you are referring to the consequences of your own incompetence. You inserted yourself into my family affairs. Jack, you thought you could save Nikki from me. You thought you could be the hero." Victor's eyes narrowed, the amusement vanishing. "You are reaping the whirlwind." "I helped her when you wouldn't," Jack shouted, the sound cracking in the large room. "I saved her life while you were too busy playing God with your children's lives. But this—" He gestured vaguely at the city outside. "This isn't about Nikki anymore. You're destroying my father's legacy. You're hurting Kyle. You're hurting people who have nothing to do with our feud." "Collateral damage," Victor dismissed, waving a hand as if swatting away a fly. "The world is a hard place, Jack. If you cannot protect what is yours, you do not deserve to keep it." Jack stared at him, and for a moment, the room seemed to tilt. He saw the years of battles, the endless cycle of revenge, the women they had traded, the companies they had stolen. It was a loop, a sick, infinite loop, and Jack suddenly realized he was the only one who wanted off the ride. Victor thrived on this. Victor was the war. "I'm warning you, Victor," Jack said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than his shout. "You have pushed me to the edge. I have lost the company. I have lost my reputation. I am watching my son look at me with pity. I have nothing left to lose. Do not test me." Victor chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. He stood up, walking around the desk to lean against the front of it, closing the distance between them but maintaining his air of superiority. "Or what? You will write a scathing memoir. You will run to the press. Go ahead. They are already writing your obituary, Jack. You are a desperate man making empty threats. It is pathetic." "It's not a threat," Jack said. "It is a performance," Victor countered, his voice dripping with disdain. "You have always been a dramatic little boy, seeking daddy's approval. John is dead, Jack. And soon, his company will be too. Accept your defeat with some shred of dignity." Jack's hand moved. It wasn't a calculated strike. It was emotion born of pure, unadulterated despair. He reached into the inner pocket of his jacket. Victor didn't flinch. He expected a subpoena, a letter of resignation. Perhaps a gun. He would have welcomed a gun. He could disarm a man with a gun. He could justify destroying a man with a gun. Instead, Jack pulled out a folding knife. It was small, silver, the kind used to cut fruit or open letters, but the blade caught the overhead light with a wicked gleam. Victor's eyebrows rose. "A knife? Really, Jack? You intend to stab me in my own office? The security footage alone will send you to prison for the rest of your miserable life." "No," Jack said. His eyes were wet, wide, and terrifyingly vacant. "I'm not going to hurt you, Victor. That would be too easy for you. You'd love that. You'd be the victim." Jack flipped the knife in his hand, reversing the grip so the blade pointed inward, pressing the tip against the fabric of his own white dress shirt, directly over his heart. Victor froze. The air left the room. "I'm going to show the world exactly what you do to people," Jack said, his voice trembling now. "I'm going to end it right here, on your rug, in your office. And you will have to live with the image of me bleeding out at your feet for the rest of your life. You will have to explain to the police, to the press, to Nikki, why Jack Abbott felt the only way to escape your torment was this." "Jack," Victor said. The name came out sharper than he intended. For the first time in decades, the mask of the Black Knight slipped. His eyes darted from Jack's face to the knife, calculating, assessing. This wasn't a bluff. He knew bluffs. He knew the look of a man playing a card. This was the look of a man who had thrown the deck into the fire. Put that down. You are being irrational. I am finally seeing clearly, Jack whispered. He pressed harder. A small red bloom appeared on the white shirt as the tip pierced the skin. You want to win. You want total victory. Here it is, Victor. Take it. Watch. Stop it. Victor barked, stepping forward, his hand raising instinctively. Stay back, Jack screamed, flinching, digging the blade deeper. One step and I do it. I swear to God. Victor, I will do it. Victor halted, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was a man who controlled everything: stock prices, politicians, his family. But he could not control the physics of a desperate man's wrist. The legal ramifications flashed through his mind: the investigation, the manslaughter charges, the public outcry. But beneath the pragmatism, a colder dread took root. He hated Jack Abbott. He had spent a lifetime hating him, but he did not want him dead. Not like this. Not by his own hand, driven by Victor's own cruelty. It was a victory to Pirrick even for him. The heavy door burst open. Victor, I need to talk to you about. Nikki Newman stopped dead in the doorway. Her Chanel bag slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a muffled thud. Her blue eyes went wide, processing the tableau before her husband, frozen in a posture of helpless command, and her ex-husband, her friend, standing 5 feet away with a knife pressed to his chest, a stain of blood already blossoming over his heart. Jack, Nikki screamed, the sound tearing through the tension. She rushed forward, but Victor caught her arm, holding her back. No, Nikki, don't startle him, Victor hissed, his grip bruising. Jack, oh my God, Jack, look at me, Nikki pleaded, tears instantly springing to her eyes. She struggled against Victor's grip, her gaze locked on Jack. What are you doing, please? Put it down. Think about Kyle. Think about Harrison. Jack's eyes flickered to Nikki. The sight of her terrified, beautiful, the woman he had loved and lost and saved seemed to fracture his resolve. The hand holding the knife shook violently. He won't stop. Nikki, Jack sobbed, the tears finally spilling over. He won't stop until I'm nothing. I can't do it anymore. I know, Nikki cried, her voice soothing, desperate. I know he pushes, Jack. I know, but this isn't the answer. Please, you saved me. You pulled me back from the edge. Let me do this for you. Please, Jack. She turned on Victor, her face a mask of fury and panic. She grabbed the lapels of his suit, shaking him. Do something, she shrieked. Look at what you've done. Are you happy? Is this enough for you? If he dies, Victor, if he hurts himself because of you, I will never forgive you. I will leave you, and I will testify against you. And I will make sure you die alone. Fix this. Victor looked down at his wife. He saw the terror in her eyes, the absolute certainty of her threat. He looked at Jack, a broken man teetering on the abyss. The power dynamic in the room had shifted tectonically. Victor held all the cards, all the money, all the leverage, and it meant absolutely nothing against the raw, bloody reality of the blade in Jack's hand. He had to fold. Victor exhaled, a long, ragged breath through his nose. He turned his gaze back to Jack. He composed his face, smoothing away the shock, replacing it with a cold, transactional calm. Jack, Victor said, his voice steady, put the knife away. Give me a reason, Jack choked out. I will call off the attack, Victor said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. I will instruct the team to shut down the AI program. I will return the stolen protocols. Abbott will be yours again, intact. Jack stared at him, blinking through his tears. You're lying. I am not lying, Victor said, his voice hard. I am giving you my word, not for you, but for Nikki. He glanced briefly at his wife, whose hands were still clutching his jacket. And because I do not wish to have your blood ruin my carpet, it is a mess I do not care to clean up. Swear it, Jack demanded. I swear, Victor said, his jaw tight. The war ends today. I will leave you alone. I will leave Abbott alone. You have your victory. Jack, now drop the damn knife. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating. Jack looked at Victor, searching for the deception, the trap, but he saw only a simmering, impotent rage in the older man's eyes. Victor was defeated. He had been checkmated by a move so reckless no grandmaster would have predicted it. Slowly, agonizingly, Jack lowered the knife. He collapsed the blade and let it fall to the floor. It clattered loudly, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Jack's knees gave way. He slumped onto one of the leather guest chairs, burying his face in his hands, his body racking with silent sobs. Nikki broke free from Victor and rushed to Jack's side. She knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders, whispering frantic reassurances, checking the wound on his chest. "It's okay, it's superficial. You're okay, oh God, Jack." Victor stood alone by his desk. He adjusted his cufflinks. He straightened his tie. He watched his wife comforting his enemy, and a darkness coalesced in his gut that was colder and deeper than anything he had felt before. He had promised to end the war. He had promised to leave Jack alone. And Victor Newman always kept his promises. Technically. But as he watched Jack Abatweek, broken, yet somehow Victor's mind began to race. He couldn't attack Jabbit. He couldn't attack Jack directly. But there were other ways. There were always other ways. Jack had shown his hand today. He had shown exactly where his breaking point was. He had revealed the depth of his fragility. Victor's eyes hardened into slits of obsidian. He watched them, feeling the humiliation burn through his veins, metabolizing into a new, crystallized hatred. "You think you have won," Victor thought, the promise of retribution already forming the architecture of his next plan. "You think this display of weakness is strength. Go home, Jack. Bandage your wounds, hug your son, because when I come for you next time, I won't target your company. I won't target your money. I will target your sanity. And next time, you won't need to threaten to use the knife. You will beg me to use it for you. Get him out of here," Victor said aloud, his voice devoid of emotion, "before I change my mind." Nikki helped Jack stand. Jack looked up, his face pale, his eyes meeting Victor's one last time. There was no triumph in Jack's gaze, only a haunted relief. He leaned heavily on Nikki as they walked toward the door. As they crossed the threshold, Jack paused. He didn't look back, but his shoulders straightened slightly. He had survived the lion's den. He had walked into the fire and extinguished it with his own blood. It was a Pyrrhic victory, yes, but he was alive. And Jabbit was safe. The door clicked shut. Victor stood in the silence of his office. He looked down at the knife lying on the rug. He walked over, picked it up with a handkerchief, and studied it. He didn't throw it away. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk and placed the knife inside, right next to the file labeled Abbott. It wasn't over. It was never over. The game had simply changed. And Victor Newman never lost the game.